Martin Luther, a seminal figure in religious history, was an Augustinian monk and theologian whose actions sparked the Protestant Reformation in the early 16th century. At this time, the Roman Catholic Church wielded vast religious and political power across Europe, controlling not just spiritual matters but also influencing societal norms, laws, and governance. The Church was perceived by many to be rife with corruption, manifesting in practices such as the sale of indulgences, which were essentially payments made to absolve sins and reduce time in purgatory. This context sets the stage for understanding Martin Luther's formidable challenge a reformist agenda that sought to address and rectify these perceived abuses and theological discrepancies. The significance of this topic is profound, as Luther's actions did not merely question the Church's authority, but also promoted ideas that continue to resonate today, such as the importance of personal conscience and the accessibility of Scripture. This foundation laid by Luther revolutionized religious thought, encouraging believers to seek a direct relationship with God, thereby diminishing the Church's gatekeeping role. One illustrative example of Luther's impact is the emergence of various Protestant denominations. These churches emphasize principles such as faith alone and Scripture alone, diverging from the Catholic tradition. Another example is the translation of the Bible into vernacular languages, spearheaded by Luther's German translation, which not only made religious texts accessible to a broader population, but also enhanced literacy and education, carrying economic and cultural implications. Support for Luther's ideas often revolves around the empowerment of individual faith and the democratization of religious practices. However, his movement was not without controversy. The Reformation led to significant religious conflicts, such as the 30 Years' War, highlighting the contentious nature of altering long-standing structures. Critics argue that his reforms fragmented Christendom, leading to sectarian divides that persist to this day. Understanding Martin Luther's challenge to the Church is crucial in connecting to broader themes of religious freedom and personal expression. His actions set off a chain reaction that not only transformed Christianity, but also influenced societal values such as individualism and freedom of thought, cornerstones of modern Western society. These developments frame the Reformation as a pivotal moment with enduring influence, illustrating how historical challenges to authority can shape contemporary life. Luther's legacy is a testament to the dynamic interplay between faith, power, and society, demonstrating how questioning entrenched systems can lead to profound and lasting change. Martin Luther's 95 Theses, formerly titled Disputation on the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences, is widely recognized as a catalyst for the Protestant Reformation. In 1517, Luther, a German monk and theologian, prominently nailed his list of 95 propositions or arguments to the door of a church in Wittenberg. These theses criticized the Catholic Church's corrupt practice of selling indulgences, which were essentially payments made to the Church to reduce punishment for sins and questioned the very foundation of the Church's authority and practices. Luther's action and subsequent writings challenged the status quo and inspired a movement for religious reform across Europe. The significance of the 95 Theses cannot be overstated. They served as a direct challenge to the ecclesiastical hierarchy and fundamentally altered the religious landscape. By insisting on the primacy of the Scriptures over church doctrine and emphasizing salvation by faith alone, Luther's arguments laid the groundwork for Protestantism. This shift not only revolutionized religious thought and practice, but also paved the way for increased literacy and individual interpretation of the Bible concepts that still resonate in today's world. Real-world applications of Luther's initial protest include the embrace of religious diversity and the broader adoption of educational reforms. For instance, the Reformation promoted the translation of the Bible into vernacular languages, allowing ordinary people to access religious texts directly. This democratization of religious knowledge contributed to the rise of public education systems around the world. Furthermore, the Reformation's emphasis on individual conscience and personal faith helped shape the development of modern democratic ideas, fostering an environment where freedom of belief became a core tenet. Support for this idea is bolstered by historians who argue that the Reformation was a necessary response to widespread corruption and unaccountability within the Church, sparking a wave of spiritual and intellectual renewal. However, potential controversies associated with Luther's theses and the broader Reformation include the eventual fragmentation of Christianity and conflicts that arose from competing religious ideologies, such as the 30 Years' War. This initial spark of Reformation undoubtedly influenced subsequent religious reforms and philosophical thought. It encouraged a spirit of inquiry and debate, which extended beyond religion to impact political, cultural, and economic structures. The repercussions of the Reformation and the spirit of questioning that Luther ignited are still evident in contemporary discussions on religious tolerance, the separation of church and state, and the pursuit of individual freedoms. Luther's challenge to the church serves as a reminder of the enduring power of ideas and the impact they can have on shaping societies. Theological foundations and conflicts refers to the underlying doctrines and disagreements that played a pivotal role in Martin Luther's challenge to the Catholic Church, leading to the Protestant Reformation. This concept encompasses the fundamental religious beliefs and theological assertions that Luther and other reformers contested, ultimately questioning the authority and practices of the Church. Key issues included the nature of salvation, the authority of the Bible versus church traditions, and the sale of indulgences, which were payments made to the Church that supposedly reduced punishment for sins. The significance of theological foundations and conflicts in relation to Luther's challenge is immense. Luther's 95 Theses, famously nailed to the door of the Wittenberg Castle Church in 1517, outlined his objections to these practices. This act marked the beginning of a major shift in Christendom, where personal faith in Scripture gained emphasis over the institutionalized rituals sanctioned by the Church. It catalyzed a movement that reshaped religious, social, and political landscapes across Europe, and its reverberations are still felt today. One real-world application of this is the existence of a multitude of Christian denominations, each with its distinct doctrines. This diversity stems from differing interpretations of Scripture, a notion that Luther promoted by advocating for reading the Bible in vernacular languages. Another example is the emphasis on personal faith and the idea of a direct relationship with God, principles now common in modern Protestant practice and which have influenced varying religious movements beyond Christianity. Supporters of these ideas often highlight the increased access to personal religious study and the importance of Scripture over tradition as democratic and liberating. However, there's also controversy. The fragmentation of Christianity into numerous sects has caused divisions and debates, sometimes leading to further conflicts. Furthermore, critics from within the Catholic Church argue that certain reforms neglected the notion of a unified church body. This focus on theological debates not only highlights the driving force behind the Reformation, but also connects with broader themes of individualism and freedom of thought. As the Reformation encouraged questioning authority, it ripened societal conditions for the Enlightenment and subsequent intellectual movements. Consequently, the theological foundations and conflicts of Luther's era have profoundly shaped modern Western thought, influencing concepts of governance, personal rights, and individual expression, embodying a legacy that indeed still impacts lives today. The phrase "spread and impact of the Reformation across Europe" refers to the widespread proliferation and profound effects of the Protestant Reformation initiated by Martin Luther in the early 16th century. This movement fundamentally challenged the religious, political, and social fabric of Europe, leading to sweeping changes that are still felt in various aspects of modern life. The significance of this point ties back to the broader narrative of how Luther's audacious challenge to the Catholic Church catalyzed a transformation that transcended borders and centuries. The Reformation's spread was expedited by the printing press, enabling the rapid dissemination of Luther's theses and writings. Within a short period, the movement gained traction beyond Germany, finding fervent support in regions like Switzerland with reformers such as John Calvin and Huldrych Zwingli, and in England under Henry VIII, leading to the formation of the Anglican Church. These examples illustrate the Reformation's ability to galvanize diverse groups across Europe, each adapting the core tenets to fit local contexts, which in turn pushed for broader changes, such as literacy improvements, as Scripture became accessible in vernacular languages. The Reformation's far-reaching impact reshaped governance by challenging the divine right of kings, inadvertently paving the way for modern democratic principles. Additionally, it fostered a spirit of inquiry and individualism that underpinned the Enlightenment, further altering Western thought and societal norms. Supporters of the Reformation highlight its role in democratizing religious practices and empowering individuals to interpret spiritual doctrines independently, which some argue laid the groundwork for modern notions of personal freedom and responsibility. However, the Reformation also sparked significant controversies and challenges. It led to religious wars, such as the 30 Years' War, that devastated parts of Europe. Critics argue that the fragmentation of religious unity sowed seeds of discord that still echo in contemporary religious and cultural divisions. Furthermore, the splintering of the Church raised questions about authority, dogma, and religious truth, challenges that remain contentious in modern theological debates. In connecting to the broader theme, the Reformation's spread and impact highlight the resilience and adaptability of Luther's ideas and how they continue to influence cultural, political, and religious landscapes today. It exemplifies the enduring nature of pivotal historical movements, demonstrating how the ripples of reform launched in the 16th century continue to shape the contours of modern society. This narrative underscores the remarkable capacity of human thought and protest to inspire lasting change, inviting a reflection on the power of challenging established norms.